Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you all tuning in. So, as you can see, got a little bit of a different setup here. Uh, we decided we were gonna take Bases Loaded podcast and kind of move it different direction. So you got sports banter across the country because obviously you guys know. Well, Aaron can't be on tonight, but the three of us are in different parts of the country. We love all kinds of sports, so it kind of fits with the new title of the show. So that doesn't mean we won't talk baseball necessarily. We're just gonna open it up to basically everything that's out there, which is basically what the show turned into anyway, because we're all really big sports fans in general. So why limit it to just baseball? So with that, like I said, you got the new logo and everything. Hopefully, I can come up with a new intro and all that, but we definitely wanted to kick off the show the right way. So, like I said, from Bases Loaded Podcast, you got Trajan, Wisconsin Sports on the Go. How are you feeling tonight?
I want everybody to take 10 seconds to appreciate that background. I want everybody to take about 10 seconds, even more if you want. That background was thrown together by Kyle. And I don't even know. It felt like 5 minutes. This guy had this thing tossed together. This would take me days. This would take me days and money to be able to make this background. So cool. I mean, if we had a clapping, some kind of, there you go, everybody. Give it to him. Give it to him. It's fantastic. It is a great day. Great day. Brand new show. Gotta love it. We're gonna get into a lot of stupid stuff. That's what we want to aim to get into stupid stuff every once in a while because you get all these sports shows where they're like strict on the sports side. We want to get into the
Yeah,
sports side, but the stupid side of sports, so we can really get some bantering going on. So you gotta love it. You gotta love it. I'm glad to be here.
yeah. Uh, Jory, what's going on? Appreciate you coming in. Yes, new title. Same kind of wacky stuff we like to do with our sports talk and get it off into basically taking the scenic route towards different conversations. We're just going to do it all under sports banner across the country. So I know that you wanted to start with a topic with a certain ESPN personality. So I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off because I do think this is interesting. Because to be honest with you, some people might think it might be the dumbest thing they will have heard in a while.
Well, I see. I gotta pull up. There you go. It's the most searched thing right now. Is Mel Kiper saying he wants to get rid of the two high safeties? It should be outlawed. Why? Just why? So his reasoning behind it was his basic, essentially, from what I heard in his quote, was that
Mm-hmm.
the game was getting boring because you were lining up guys 30 yards off the ball and they were taking away all these deep routes. Isn't it like so? The defense is scheming, right? They know you got guys like Patrick Mahomes and every one of these guys in the league now. They want to throw it deep. So what are they doing? They're adjusting to that. So you want to take away something that a defense is doing to adjust to what your offensive capabilities are, right? It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just okay. So if they do that, why don't you just, I don't know, drop it over the middle? Why don't you? Yeah, I agree. Mel is an idiot. He's right there with Nick Wright. He's right there with Skip Bayless. Like all those guys, same level. They just do these stupid things to irritate me. I just believe it deep down. They just want to irritate me. But okay, then as an offense, why don't you just do simple things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inside moves, slants, whatever. I don't know. Something basic over the middle. Something basic in front of the safeties. Get chunk yards. Then they got to bring safeties up. Then they got to throw different packages out there. It's what the game was about, right? Chess. It's a chess match. That's what we've always said.
Yep.
It's a chess match. Who's going to make the right moves here? Why do you want to take away somebody who's making a move in that situation? Okay, honestly, I hate Jim Harbaugh. I hate Jim Harbaugh. But what is Jim Harbaugh doing with the Chargers right now? He's building an offensive line. He's making this team so that they can dominate the run game. Not many teams do that anymore. They don't want to dominate the run game. They don't care, right? That'd be funny. That'd be funny if they tried. That'd be funny if they tried right there. But basically, they have. You don't put layups anymore. It's either a dunk or it's a three, right? That's essentially the game of the NBA at this point. But I mean, Jim Harbaugh's doing something different. Why don't For me, if I was going to build my team, I'd want to build an offensive line. I'd want to build a team that could run the ball. Why would you not want to run the ball? Why would you not want to waste clock? Why would you not want to get in a gunslinging match? I don't get it. I don't get why Okay, so Mel says, let's get rid of 2 high safeties. Why do you so it gets more exciting? So you want these games to be 56-49? Like, that's your dream? You want this to be offensive shootout after offense? No. Why? Why? It's like baseball with all their new rules they throw in, right? You're trying to speed up the game. You're trying to make it more offensive. I don't know if they did make it more offensive, but that's what
Hmm.
they have to do. It's just why? Why mess with something that's working? I'm still it's taking me time to get just yeah, went black there for a second. I still think the kickoff rule is stupid. I still haven't gotten fully adjusted to that. Maybe I will, right? I said the same with the pitch clock and everything like that. Maybe I'll get used to it. I still don't like
Hmm.
that kickoff thing. So it's all these little things they keep trying to do with the game to try and make it more explosive, try to make it more offensive. It's going to ruin it eventually. You're going to ruin it eventually. And this could be one of those things where they outlaw it. It's just going to ruin it. It really will. We're going to ruin defenses because figure out how to scheme against 2 high safeties then. I think that'd be a better thing to say. How do you scheme against? I have not heard a single person who has agreed with Mel Kiper's take. I would love to hear somebody give me a
Yeah,
very good reasoning on it, but I haven't heard one.
I I couldn't even think of a valid reason for it. I mean, unless of Mel Kiper's thing is like you said, he just wants it to be like Wild West, Pac-12, Big 12 type football where it's like I said, 56-49. Maybe he thinks that will appeal to the younger crowd or something like that, which I feel like the NFL does fine on its own the way it is. I agree with you. The Jim Harbaughs, the Gerard Mayo. Look at LaFleur and the Packers, what they did to the Colts because they had Malik Willis. Like there's nothing in the rule book that says that we can't just be bigger, stronger, more physical than you, and just beat you into the ground for 60 minutes. I find that entertaining as well. It's like you have to be able to appreciate the scheme that these coaches spend all hours of the day coming up with, hoping that it plays out the way that they, scheme it up in their offense when you get out there on Sunday. So if they win 3-0 or 50-49, good football is good football. Where football I feel like loses people are the sloppy games where it's like all penalties and all this kind of stuff. Nobody wants to see that. But it's almost like a pitcher's duel. People hate pitcher's duels until you actually watch one, and then you're just locked in. So I get, like I said, I guess I see Mel Kiper coming up with that because everybody likes to be the trendsetter and come up with that. I mean, we saw Jeff Van Gundy do it all the time on broadcasts where he would just come with some random thought. I'm kind of surprised maybe with it being Mel Kiper, I would probably think of it being like a younger, maybe like a Nick Wright or somebody. Like if he came up with it, I'd be like, that's kind of on par. For Mel Kiper, a guy who his calling card is, breaking down draft prospects and all this kind of stuff, why is he the one talking about outlawing a defense that's as common as the game is? So I agree with you. I think it's stupid. I don't know why he felt like that's something he needed to say for people to hear. Like that's one of those you keep to yourself, you write it down somewhere, and you throw it in the corner of your desk and just be like, yeah, I thought of that, but nobody's gonna take that seriously. So that's wild to me that he actually said that. It's hilarious, actually. But yeah,
And
I mean, it's
I thought about the pitcher's duel thing you were talking about there, and it's not like a pitcher's duel. It's not. For a baseball fan, you have to be a baseball
mhm.
fan to appreciate a good old pitcher's duel because when a guy's on, it's masterful, right? I mean, Greg Maddux, all that, Randy Johnson, whoever it was, right? In days past to today's age with Zach Wheeler, Corbin Burns, whoever it is, right? When you look at football, I get excited to watch a good defense. I got excited to watch, TJ Watt getting in the backfield for the Steelers, or when
Yeah,
Von
yeah,
Miller was rolling around with the Broncos, or Aaron Donald was just a monster in the middle of the field. I get excited to watch those guys. I think you're honestly not in his method. We talked about appealing to the younger generation. You're not appealing to the younger generation any better if you take away the defensive portion by making the safeties move.
yeah.
You're not doing anything because people want to see good defense too. Kids want to see their favorite defensive player go out and lay somebody out. Like that is what kids love to see. That they love the defensive side just as much as they love the offensive side. So this
Mhm.
whole take by Mel Kiper, I don't think it benefits the game in any way, shape, or form outside of we're going to have receivers going for over 150 yards a game because nobody's going to be back there. So I don't get it. And then how do you stipulate the rule then? Because, you look at a prevent defense, right? What are you going to do? 4th and 30 with 1 second left. Are you going to make the safeties play up 15 yards off the ball? Like, is that what
Yeah.
you want? You want to have the safeties? Like, it's just okay. So then you have to have stipulations to the rule. Well, when do you bend the stipulate? It's such a stupid take. It honestly, like, I've heard a lot of stupid takes. I have Nick Wright. I just mentioned him before. I mean, I've heard all of his, and those baffle me. But this one from
Yeah.
Mel Kiper takes the cake. It just takes the cake. Pat McAfee was talking about it today. There's a lot of different shows. I think he was on Greeny earlier this morning. Mel Kiper was talking about it, and Greeny was baffled by what he was saying. I mean, I think he honestly lost some credibility by bringing up something as stupid as this. I think he did. It's like, dude, do you watch the game? Like, what are you trying to get at with that? Because nobody, I mean, Dan Patrick talked about it. He's like, this is, I mean, just, he didn't say stupid because it wouldn't be nice to say stupid, but basically said it was a stupid, it's just all these guys saying that it was a stupid take. Dude, just back out of it. Just find a way to say, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke. I didn't actually mean it.
Right.
Just find a way to back out now because your face is everywhere. And I mean, I'm looking all over Twitter right now. People are blowing up about it, and there is not a comment out of the thousands in there that is saying, "You're right, Mel. You're." I think his mother would have said, "Dude, no, be quiet. Mel, shh, quiet. Not for you. Not for you. Go back to your room." Like there is nobody out there supporting this claim right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember some of Mel Kiper stuff just with the draft, and he has said stupid stuff even with that. And I mean, you put these guys in front of a microphone or in front of a TV enough, and they will come up with some stuff that just makes you scratch your head. Because yeah, I haven't seen anybody who's agreed with him. Uh, I have seen some people talk about the NFL product not being like watchable or whatever like that. Like for me, my take would be like I want to see kind of the physical nature that cornerbacks had back when like Peyton Manning came into the league, which a lot of Colts fans hated when he would go up against like the Patriots and Marvin Harrison and those guys are like getting mugged off the line. I'd rather see it go back to that. I know some fans probably don't like that because it makes the game, but I feel like that physical part of it is exciting to watch. And I feel like that's kind of why I included the pitchers duel is like, because like you said, good football is good football. You'll watch defensive football. The same way I think that there were baseball fans if they went to a game and it was bottom of the ninth, a runner on second, scoreless game, some people might look at that as boring. Now, I would probably say, I don't know what you're looking at, but I feel like the hardcore fans would be on the edge of their seat. The new casual fan would be like, I want to see something happen. I need some action. This is boring. That's what I'm talking about in terms of football. Like a game where it's like on offense, nothing but 3-and-outs, but your defense is just stout. Some people would call that boring football. But I'm like you. If I'm seeing good defense, hard hitting, I will take that any day. This wide open style, I mean, yeah, that's cool as well. But maybe because like when I played as a kid, I was on defense, so I've always been kind of leaning towards defensive play. So maybe that's just what it is. Like, what you like appeal to. If Mahomes stands back there and throws like 500 yards a game, some people will say that's great. Other football fans will be like, we got a problem. Can't watch that every week. Like, what are these defenses supposed to do? It's already bad enough right now for the defense. For Kiper to talk about taking away 2 safety, like now you're limiting them even more. And that's definitely the wrong direction we need to go with the game. Offense has all the advantages anyway.
I agree. I agree with you there. I got another bold take one for you. Bold take. So
Okay.
when you think NFL Hall of Fame, so you're thinking Hall of Famers here.
Yes.
Is it how do you okay, so if you were the guy who picked the Hall of Famers, right? You were the guy who was going to be able to pick, like, say Aaron Rodgers makes it in or this guy makes it in.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to just go off how would you want to do it? Is it off the eye test? Is it off of the you got to have the stats, right? Or is it
Mm-hmm.
eye test? Because you're talking like, okay, let's say Eli Manning. He's got 2 Super Bowls
Yeah.
under his belt, right? Aaron Rodgers has got 1. But if you look eye test to eye test, who would you rather have taken in their prime? A lot of people would say Aaron Rodgers because he was
Yes.
probably
Absolutely.
undoubtedly probably better than Eli Manning in his prime. Eli had his moments, right? But
Mm-hmm.
how do you, if you were gonna pick, you're the guy. You're the guy who's picking Hall of Famers here. Is it an eye test? Do you got to have the stats? Is it a little bit of both? How do you do it?
For me, it's eye test only because when it comes to stats, a lot of stats are kind of forgettable. But eye test is something that you can definitely lock onto and keep with you. Because I'm glad you brought this up. I've been one of those who have said I don't think Eli Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I know he's going to get in because of the 2 Super Bowl wins, because of them happening against the Patriots, who were, big media. I was about to say darlings, but they were just media attention at that time because some sectors of the media hated them, some loved them. They were just always part of the conversation. So Eli Manning beating those 2, especially the one where they were going for the undefeated season, that is going to push him in. And his last name happens to be Manning. And we know the NFL loves the Manning family. But I also think if you put Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame, I don't need people then coming up to me and telling me that Matt Ryan's not a Hall of Famer. Because if I'm sitting here, I feel like Matt Ryan was a better quarterback than Eli Manning. I feel like the stats probably back it up for Matt Ryan, but I think to the average NFL fan, they'll say Matt Ryan wasn't that good. And unfortunately for him, everybody just remembers the 28-3. But I just feel like Eli Manning is going to be that guy. He gets in, it's going to open up the door. Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, guys like that, who I think some people think are fringe guys. I honestly think Rivers and Ryan are better than Eli. So if Eli can get in, those 2 better get in. But for me, it's all eye test because numbers can be skewed for certain reasons. You could have really good skill position players, and you're basically just throwing it to them at the line of scrimmage, and they're making. Let me backtrack on that one. So, if you drop back, throw a pass at the line of scrimmage to like Deebo Samuel, he jukes the defense and scores a 99-yard touchdown. That was basically all him. But stat-wise, it's going to look like, oh, you threw a 99-yard touchdown pass. Like, the numbers are a little bit out there. I mean, if you want to use numbers for tiebreakers, I'm fine with that. But I think when it comes to Hall of Fame, it should be eye test. These guys who vote on it are supposed to be like people who eat, sleep, all that football. So they should know what they're watching. So,
Yeah.
what about you? Are you eye test or stats?
Man, I think I'm a combo. I'm a combo guy.
Okay.
Because I think the stats got to mean something, right? At the end of the day, look at Dak Prescott. He can put up the stats in the regular season. He's done it a couple times now where he looks like this, solid quarterback regular season, but then he gets to the playoffs, and then we see it. Lamar Jackson puts up the stats in the regular season. When push comes to shove, he can't beat it's the Chiefs at this point. He can't beat the Chiefs. Nobody can beat the Chiefs. That's the problem in the AFC right now. But I mean, I agree. You can't always just weigh the stats because, like you said, Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers got 1. Matt Ryan, he's going to be remembered for the 28-3. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
When you think of Matt Ryan, you just think of that game. Like, I don't know why I do it. But I just think of that game and it's like, oh man, and you see it all over social media and everything like that. It still hurts. It still hurts Falcons fans all over the place. I mean, just
Hmm.
like Seattle fans, though. I mean, you're talking about Russell Wilson would have another Super Bowl if they
Yep.
give the ball to Marshawn Lynch and just let him run it in, right? Marshawn Lynch is in the same boat there. Is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, looking at the eye test, 100%. Like, this dude
Yeah.
was a monster when he ran the football. But if you look statistically compared to running backs of the past, you would say maybe not. Maybe it's questionable. If he's got the rings, if he's got the MVPs or whatever you want to say, it's a different kind of category. So I think you got to go by both with some guys. I think you do. Aaron Rodgers, he's undoubtedly a Hall of Famer. He's got one Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to get it done with the New York Jets. I do want to see the Jets and Packers in a Super Bowl because that would be awesome. I don't know why the NFL, everybody says it's rigged anyways. I don't know why they don't rig it for Packers, Jets, Super Bowl. Does Aaron Rodgers get his second and ride off into the sunset? Or does Jordan Love beat his mentor, win the Super Bowl, and get his first one with Green Bay? That's a storyline that would live forever. I don't know why they don't do
Right.
it. It's rigged anyways. Might as well do it. That'd be awesome. That'd be an awesome Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. That'd be an awesome Super Bowl anyways. But it's one of those things too where Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, like you mentioned, you look at his. I got his stats up next to Eli Manning's. He blows Eli Manning, right? He blows him
Yeah.
out of the water. Not blow him out of the water, but 700 more completions, 65% passer complete versus 60 with
Hmm.
Eli. Yards he beats him in, touchdowns he beats him in. Eli beats him in interceptions. Eli loved throwing interceptions. So you can use the
Yep.
eye test off of stats too. You're looking at this saying Eli Manning threw a lot of interceptions. You didn't have to watch every game to know that he threw a lot of interceptions. He did have his moments, like I said earlier. He had his moments where he stepped up in big games. I mean, the helmet catch, right? That was a
Yeah.
receiver stepping up in a big moment, but that was Eli trusting a guy who I think the story went that he hadn't caught a pass like all week at practice. And they went into this game and he was still shaky and he still threw him the football. Like, that's kind of quarterback I want where he trusts the receiver enough to be able to still sling it at him, right? But
Hmm.
it's definitely for me, I'm both. I'm an eye test and I'm a little bit of stats. You got to have the stats. Like, you could say right now, God, I'm trying to think of a quarterback that's playing extremely well. He has the stats like extremely well over the last couple of years, but let's just say Sam Darnold has 3 good years in a row, right? This year continues, next year, and then the year after that. Could you say Sam Darnold's a Hall of Famer off the eye test because he watched 3 years where he was say they won the Super Bowl or something, he won an MVP or 2 MVPs in a row. Like now you're sitting there like, okay, my eye test tells me this, but then I look at the stats and it's like he's played this long and here's his stats over the first. It's just so hard. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy who impresses the most is Steve Young, right? Steve Young did all of his work in what, 8 years? I mean, he was already wasn't he already almost 30 by the time he actually played? After Joe Montana was done, wasn't he almost? How old? I'm trying to remember how old Steve Young was, but
I was trying to think because he played in Tampa before that, but I mean, nobody was paying attention to the Bucks back then. He might have been like 30 before he like burst on the scene with the Niners. With the Niners, that sounds about right.
let's see, let's see.
I'm
He
not
got his first
seeing.
start in 1991. He was 37 in 1998. So what does that put us at? Minus
Wait,
that.
he got his first start in '91.
So he was 31 years old.
Yeah,
He was 30 or 31 years old, or just around
yeah,
those
on
marks
his
when he
birthday.
got his
Yeah.
first start in the NFL, and then did so much in so little of time. It's an anomaly, right? You're talking about a guy who that's even more impressive. Was that
Mhm.
technically, if you go by quarterbacks from this day and era, that's the back spiral of his career, right? You're supposed to be on the downward trend, and yet Steve Young was an anomaly out there. So Steve Young is a no doubt Hall of Famer to me. He's got the stats. He's got, I mean, the eye tests where you're talking about a guy who was 30 years old making his debut and just rolling out there, taking the job from Joe Montana, saying, "See you later, old guy. I got this now," even though I'm kind of old in my own right now. Like, It's got to be both. I really do think it's got to be a little bit of
Yeah,
both.
because when you brought up the fact of quarterback that has like the stats and you wondering about the eye test whether or not they're a Hall of Famer, I thought of a quarterback. So career numbers, here you go. Basically 40,000 yards passing, just about 273 touchdowns, 112 interceptions, and a 98.1 quarterback rating. So, blind resume, those numbers, would that quarterback be a Hall of Famer?
That sounds like Kirk Cousins.
That actually is Kirk Cousins.
It sounds like, you said touchdowns, interceptions. Like, this guy's too safe to throw picks.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Like, for me, I think Kirk Cousins is a serviceable, solid, gets the
Mm-hmm.
job done quarterback. But what I've always said is he needs a good defense behind him. He needs weapons that can make plays for him. Because at the end of the day, if he gets into a shootout against Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, it doesn't matter who it is, he's
Mm-hmm.
not going to beat him. He's not going to win quarterback to quarterback, skill set to skill set. He does the little things right. So then you're talking about a serviceable quarterback who doesn't do it. He doesn't do anything like Patrick Mahomes. He catches your eye, right? You see these crazy passes that he throws, and even Rodgers and Stafford. I mean, before Mahomes, a lot of people like to forget, but before Mahomes came in, Stafford was dropping down sidearm. We had Rodgers dropping
Yeah.
down. Like, this was not just something Mahomes came up with. It was these two were doing it before he even got there. But that's another guy, Stafford. How do you look at Stafford? He's had a pretty good career. Started with the Detroit Lions, where the Lions were garbage, and he still was doing good things up there. Yes, he had Megatron and everything, but still had some bad teams, did good things. Now he's with the Rams, went to the Super Bowl, right? How do you I don't think Kirk Cousins, that's tough. See, I don't think Kirk Cousins is a Hall of Famer. I just don't see him as a Hall of Famer. Yet, if he plays a
Right.
couple more years, he could have better stats outside of Super Bowl wins than what Eli Manning has. So, and even a boatload less interceptions. So then, how do you stack him up with Eli? Do you overweigh the two Super Bowls, overweigh all these great stats and low interception numbers? Now we're talking like batting average to home runs. Is a good batting average good, or is a lot of home runs good? I don't know anymore, right? It's like that. Are we, does a Super Bowl outweigh good stats in the regular season? All those little things in between. Did Kirk Cousins have the best teams? You never know. So that's tough. That's tough. I don't think Kirk Cousins is a Hall of Famer. I just don't think Kirk Cousins is a Hall of Famer. But it's hard to. I would have to see somebody in the Hall of Fame, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, who is eerily similar. I'd have to see somebody in the Hall of Fame already that I could say, this guy is Kirk Cousins. He got in, so now Kirk Cousins gets in. I would have to see that.
I mean, yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I think part of it's going to be if you take a guy from a certain era versus Kirk Cousins' era, like, do you equate for that and all that? So I do think that's, yeah. Now, I do think you put Eli Manning in, I feel like Kirk Cousins enters that group because you did bring up Matt Stafford. That was the name I was trying to remember. Guys like Matt Stafford, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. Like I said, I think you throw Kirk Cousins. If you put Eli Manning in, I feel like those four guys are going to have a legit case on getting in. And once again, I'm one of those who is a bit higher on Kirk Cousins than a lot. I think if you look at Kirk Cousins' career, yes, as cheesy as corny as he is, I think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Now, I don't think he's a guy who gets in first ballot. No. But I do think eventually he gets in. I feel like the numbers are there, the longevity's there, and even recently, he has started playing better on primetime, which was the one thing that dinged him for his career. So maybe the fact that he's doing it later in his career, that once he does retire, the stigma that followed him all those years may not be as bad anymore. So I kind of agree with you. If he can put together a couple more seasons that are really good, it probably helps a guy like him out a lot. The further he gets away from like the Washington days, I feel like the better for him. Because at Washington, he was really just seen as a average at best quarterback who, you know, dink and dunk, needs strong running game and all that kind of stuff. I feel like now he's a bit more of a modernized quarterback. So I do think that's interesting. When
I
it comes
think
to
he's
Hall
on
of Fame,
the
especially the
outside.
NFL, it's difficult.
I just
I feel
think
like
he's
there's a
gonna
way to
be outside.
find a Hall of Famer that has Kirk Cousins like numbers.
That's what I'm doing right now. I was trying to look at. I figured somebody did a list of guys who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame but aren't in the Hall of Fame. I was trying to find Jim Plunkett. Let's see. Does Jim Plunkett have a Super Bowl? He won a Super Bowl MVP that season while the Raiders became the first wild
Yeah.
card team to win it all. So Plunkett does have a Super Bowl win. That ain't going to help Kirk Cousins. He's got to win a Super Bowl. That's what I'm getting out of this. He's got to win a Super Bowl because even he didn't get in. Terry Bradshaw has crappy stats as a quarterback and is in the Hall of Fame. He's got 4 Super Bowls, right? They went to, Steelers. That was the Steelers back in the day. But look at his stats. They're garbage. They're hot garbage. Now, it was a run, a little bit of running here and there, right? A little more power mouth football. That's what made me laugh about Mel Kiper was when he said something about the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And I was like, there's a lot more power football going on in the 70s, 80s, and 90s than I think Mel Kiper remembers. So
Right.
I thought that was a little baffling. But man, I'm trying to find somebody. Sims completed a Super Bowl record 88% of his passes. Phil Sims is not in the Hall of Fame there. Joe Theismann's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I don't think Kirk Moneybags Cousins can make it in because I'm looking at the list of quarterbacks, and these are guys with Super Bowl wins. And I mean, Joe Theismann might not be everybody's favorite option, or some of these other guys, but it seems like you got to win a Super Bowl to get in. It seems like that's the only way they talk about you. Look at what the only knock is on Aaron Rodgers, right? What's Aaron Rodgers' one knock? He's only got one Super Bowl. Like, that is the knock everybody loves to take. Yes, his personality and everything like that. I get that. But stats to stats, I mean, IQ, yes, he thinks he's smarter than everybody, which he's not. But IQ of the game, Aaron Rodgers is right there. I mean, he's got everything you want in a quarterback. The only thing that he has not done, he's got MVP awards. And he's not even that. I mean, you're talking about MVP where it seems like you got to be almost like a Lamar Jackson or something to win it. He's not even that. He's just this guy who I think that's what's taken away a lot of his game now is he's not as mobile. He got to, when he was mobile, he made things happen. He was the best at reading a 4-man front. He knew there was 6 options to get the heck out of there, and it seemed like he always found the right one. You have 4 guys, 4-man rush coming at you. You have options to get out of there. He always seemed to find the right spot to bail out, make a throw, run for a little bit of yards, whatever it was. It just seemed like he was always that guy. And I think it's taken away a lot of his game now. So that little side note there with Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, that's going to be the knock on Kirk Cousins. That'll be the knock is that he could not get a Vikings team or now with the Falcons, he won't be able to get a Falcons team over the top. Now, I don't think the Falcons are truly ready. I don't think they're truly ready. I think there's or not a lot, but a couple better teams in the NFC. I think the Eagles are honestly a better team. I really do. I watched the Eagles and Packers play. I think the Eagles are a better team than the Falcons. I just think the Falcons beat them. They beat them at their own crap. The Eagles just seemed like they were flat. It wasn't working for the Eagles. It was a good game though. Like that was a good game between those two teams. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, like you said, made plays in prime time, which we don't normally see, but made an impressive drive late in that one. I was impressed. I was honestly impressed. If he gets to a Super Bowl, I think it changes people's opinions on Kirk Cousins. But until then, he is just your average Joe Smo quarterback who just makes the throws, and that's about it. He doesn't do anything special. He doesn't jump off the page. I think that's going to be the reason why they keep him out. I really do. I think that's going to be the reason why they keep him out.
Yeah, look, it's gonna take a couple of writers making a very good argument for him. I just think, like I said, the primetime stuff obviously is a big deal. I agree, not making a Super Bowl is a big deal. But I mean, like I said, Eli Manning, his whole career was nothing but last place finishes outside of those 2 years. So that's where I struggle with him being such a like, because some people are like he's first ballot, no doubt about it, Hall of Famer, and I'm just like, he led the league in interceptions several times. He only won those two Super Bowls because those 2 years, those defenses were just, I don't even know, like legendary defenses that he rode to a Super Bowl. And yes, like you said, the David Tyree catch, the Mario Manningham catch are two plays that he made. The Plaxico Burress catch as well in the end zone. Like those three plays are three plays that you remember, which obviously help him because that's on a big stage. But I find it hard to believe that a Hall of Fame quarterback had two successful years in their whole career, and for some reason is a first ballot type of guy. I just don't know. I mean, Kirk Cousins, unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of playoff success either. So I can't necessarily put him over Eli because of that. I just sitting here watching them both play. I would probably take Kirk Cousins over Eli Manning as my quarterback.
Me too. The thing that I think does it for him, who did he play in the Super Bowl? Like you said earlier, it was the big bad Patriots. That's why. You
Mm-hmm.
beat Brady twice. That's my biggest thing to tick people off that I say is the dude beat him twice. He beat Brady twice. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Brady with two more Super Bowls. And then Brady's
Mm-hmm.
in a whole, I mean, he's in his own conversation right now, but now he's even further off in his own
Yeah.
conversation. So, I mean, that's the one thing that I think the writers and people take away from the Eli Manning era is that he beat Brady twice. Not many people can say that they did. That's what they take from it.
I mean, that is pretty fair. That's fair because that'd be like if, I mean, I guess throw Kirk Cousins into it. Let's say he got the Falcons to the Super Bowl, faced the Chiefs, and beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. That would do a lot for him
Yep.
because Patrick Mahomes is now the new it guy. So yeah, I mean, you make a good point about that. Yeah, maybe it's just because, like I said, I'm higher on Kirk Cousins than a lot of people are. So I feel like he's been a little bit underrated for some of the seasons that he's had. And then, to be honest, a lot of those years with the Vikings, he had to deal with Rodgers and the Packers every year. And that's when Rodgers and the Packers were just the better team in that division. So Kirk Cousins didn't really have a pathway to get in. But I mean, you can't necessarily use that as an excuse because I'm sure all those seasons Kirk Cousins would look back at his career and say he could have been better. So that's
Yep. Yep.
definitely a good one. I saw a bad take as well that I wanted to. What was it? Oh yeah, so I saw somebody say, I guess to kind of cycle back to what our former show used to be. I saw somebody say that Shohei Ohtani is the most overrated player in the game.
What did you? Are you following my Twitter? Did you see that on my Twitter?
I did not see that.
Shit! Somebody took my post.
Oh, so I guess you subscribe to that. I mean, I would love to know like what about him makes him overrated. I don't know.
I don't
Not
think a
saying that you're
darn.
wrong or anything.
No, I don't think a darn thing makes him overrated. I really don't think there's a darn thing. Actually, we were talking about this earlier because we had, the news broke. Everybody knows about it. He's a 50-50 guy, right? And that's
Yeah.
awesome. Hey, good for him. First time it's ever happened. He's setting his own record now the more he hits. What we were talking about was, back in the day when Barry Bonds was doing Barry Bonds things, right? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
stopped pitching to Barry Bonds. They just didn't want to face him. They just would walk him. And I made the joke that, yeah, I would just intentionally walk him every time so he couldn't get his 50. Well, that'd just be me. I'm just that kind of guy. But I just don't understand. I'm watching these. I watched some of the clips of him hitting, his home runs against the Marlins there, and one of them was against Brujan. So anybody who's saying that that was the most masterful performance that's ever happened, shut up. I'm done with that. No, none of that. None of that. Not even going to talk about it. It was a great performance by Shohei Ohtani. But I'm watching these pitches, and I know watching the Brewers face him and all these teams face him. Why are you throwing this guy like you want him to hit the ball? Why are you not, I'm not talking you got to just walk him every time. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is pitch him low, pitch him outside, make him reach for it, do whatever you have to do. Don't try to challenge him with a fastball at the top of the zone. There isn't really a fastball at the top of the zone that this guy, maybe one from Miller, right? Maybe one that Miller throws where Shohei Ohtani can't catch up to it. Outside of that, you're throwing 93 to 95 in the top part of the zone. I'm going to give you a solid guess that he's going to hit it, and he's going to probably hit it pretty far. So my only question is, and this is where sometimes I just think the MLB pays these teams off to just make this thing happen, because I'm watching some of these pitches that the Marlins are throwing, and it's like, why are you throwing it there? This is the most dangerous guy in their lineup. Like Freddie Freeman, dangerous. Mookie Betts, dangerous. Shohei Ohtani, different level, dangerous. Like I would rather, and this is actually surprising. I never thought I'd say this. I would rather face Freddie Freeman than Shohei Ohtani. Like I would rather take my chances, because Ohtani can beat me about 9,000 different ways and effectively beat me 9,000 different ways. Freddie Freeman isn't as prone to hit a bomb against me as Shohei Ohtani is if I leave a mistake pitch. Ohtani's going to go yard on me. I saw a stat today about Aaron Judge. He's like got over 1,000 hits in his career, and 600 some of them are home runs. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous stat. It's either bomb or nothing for that guy too. But I mean, I look at Ohtani. There's not a single part of his game that's overrated. I just look at some of these guys, some of these pitchers out there, and I'm like, why are you still throwing to this guy? Challenge him to drive it the other way. If I throw one at 95 down and away, it just clips the corner on the bottom side of the Fox track, and he hits a tank on me to left field. I'm tipping my cap to him. I'm just like, yep, you are just that guy. Like, I can't stop you. Until he does that, keep pitching him there. Make him earn it on. I just don't get it, Kyle. I just really don't. I'm watching. I mean, the Brujan home run, get out of here with that. I mean, it's a position player throwing. It's like 70, not even 70 miles per hour. He left it up. Ohtani's going to hit a bomb. Like, that's just how it is. But you look at some of these other guys, even Edward Cabrera, I mean, throwing it over the plate. It doesn't make sense the way guys pitch him. I don't get it. I really don't. If it comes to postseason and the Brewers are facing him, I hope the Brewers throw him low and away the entire time, because I'd rather have him get on base. Yes, he's a stolen base threat, but he's not Ellie De La Cruz fast. He's not that fast. We can throw this guy out. So, I mean, you just got to find a – I just don't get it. I don't – look, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going through any of this spiel here and telling you that it wasn't impressive what he did this year. It is impressive. Like, it is awesome, setting milestones and everything like that. But what I'm saying is I don't understand the pitching that happens to him. I don't. Like, it's like we're trying to pitch to get this guy out. You want to pitch to get him out, but you also want to be careful. You don't want to let this guy beat you like this, where he goes 6 for 6 with 3 home runs and 10 RBIs, and you get completely destroyed. I mean, that wasn't even a ball game that he was going this phenomenal performance in. I don't know. He's not overrated. He's not overrated. I'm not going to say he's overrated. I'm going to say I don't understand opposing teams pitching to this guy at this point. I really don't. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's probably a reason why the Marlins are where they are. They have guys like that. But for me, when I see seasons like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani are having, this is where kind of like the MLB The Show factor kind of comes in. Like, if you could play Diamond Dynasty and somehow bring Pedro Martinez in his prime to face a Shohei Ohtani or an Aaron Judge, I feel like seeing a matchup like that would be incredible, because we know Pedro Martinez is not a guy who wants to pitch around guys. He may brush you back, he may even hit you, but he's a guy that if Shohei was a home run away from 50-50 club, and the manager walked out to the mound and was like, "I want you to walk him." Pedro would look at you and go, "I'm not walking this guy. I can get him out." And I would love to see that kind of cat and mouse game that would happen, because I feel like Pedro obviously has a great control and is a smart pitcher. He probably would do what you're saying. Change ups low and away, get him to chase, maybe the occasional fastball off the plate inside to at least get him thinking about that, and then go back outside. We all know that every pitcher is Pedro Martinez. I mean, Randy Johnson, that'd be left on left. That would be an intriguing matchup. And
That'd be a
Randy Johnson was
battle.
very intimidating as a left-hander. I mean, we saw the stuff with like the All-Star game with John Kruk, which was hilarious. But yeah, that's a guy who would just rear back and throw 100 easy. That's intimidating, especially for a left-handed batter standing in the box, and he kind of threw like a little sidearm a little bit there. That's scary. So I feel like matchups like that would be so cool to see, because I do agree with you. These like average, below average pitchers challenging these guys, it's like, what are you trying to do? I get it. If you strike them out, you make a name for yourself, but you also have to be smart about it. Because if you walk them, yeah, like you took your chance, you let them take their base, and you move on to the next guy. I would hope, because they get to the postseason and you're facing better teams, they'll be better equipped to handle those two. But like you said, if your Brewers are facing the Dodgers, the number one thing has to be Shohei can't be the guy that beats us in this series. Like, that's crazy if you allow him to do that. And I'm pretty sure a team like the Brewers will have a plan in place to actually do that. That's also going to be fascinating with the playoffs. Like, he and Judge, if they become neutralized, obviously you have more faith in the Dodgers lineup than the Yankees lineup, but that's where baseball becomes interesting. Yes, it's a team sport, but within that team sport, it's a bunch of individual battles, pitcher, batter. And if you can't win that individual batter, that individual matchup between the two of you, that affects the whole team in general. So that's where postseason baseball for me becomes so interesting, because every at bat is just that much more important and magnified in October. So.
And that's what you love about young, dumb, and stupid teams, right? I said that about the Diamondbacks last year when I was watching them. I'm like, they're too young and dumb and stupid to know that they're not supposed to be doing what they're doing right now. Like, this team was supposed to be a wild card out. And that's where I look at like the Brewers this season. And I'm like, this team is a team that they see Shohei Ohtani. They know what this guy's about, but they don't think he's the best guy in baseball. They don't think by any means that they can't beat this guy or this dynasty or whatever you want to call it, whatever the Dodgers are at this point. They don't think that. And that's what you got to love about some of these teams. You're talking about your average pitchers not throwing to Ohtani. I agree. That's a big thing, I guess, that I left out of my statement was, if you got Corbin Burns or, one of these aces in your staff with dominant stuff, I want him to go after him. Like Pedro Martinez or even a Nolan Ryan versus Shohei Ohtani. That'd be a dogfight between those two guys. Like, those are the matchups you want. I want like Zach Wheeler. I would not be opposed to Zach Wheeler taking on Shohei Ohtani. Like, if Zach Wheeler's on, that is going to be a battle between those two guys. It's when I see guys who are like your number 5 in your rotation, just those, they don't have the stuff to be able to strike out Ohtani or even fool Ohtani. When those guys try to, I don't know, drop a curveball over the plate, it's like, you got to bury that baby or don't throw it at all. You have two choices here. That there is no in between here. So yes, I completely agree. It depends on the spot. It really does. And I can't wait for postseason baseball either, because like you said, I mean, Ohtani, Judge, even guys like Witt, those guys up on the biggest stage there, we aren't even talking about a team. There's a team out there, Kyle, right now, who is hotter than everybody, and not a lot of people are talking about them. The Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers.
It is crazy what they've done.
Since
they're basically doing what the Royals did.
Yes.
Because the Royals went on this crazy run, and now the Tigers are doing it.
Yes. since August 10th. On August 10th, they were 55-63. That was their record. They were done. Done to the rights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Javi Baez goes away, whatever. We're going to solve our problems. Since then, they are 80-73. They have lost 10 games since August 10th. This team is playing on a different. I'm talking about before when I said too young, dumb, and stupid to know that they're not supposed to be doing it. This team is so young that you don't even know half the guys on their roster. I was watching some highlights from their games. They had a comeback win against the Padres. They had a comeback win against the Royals not too long ago. And I'm watching the highlights, right? And I'm seeing Torkelson and I'm seeing Green out there. I'm seeing some of the guys that I've heard of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm watching. I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this guy that just delivered this big hit? Who is this guy? And you're watching. You're like, who are these guys? But they're just a bunch of guys. They're a bunch of dudes who are doing something that ain't supposed to be happening. But right now, they're playing themselves into a playoff spot, and it's unreal.
Yeah.
And you know what the best part is? This is postseason baseball. This is what you want. Because if the Tigers continue on this pace going into the playoffs, I'm sorry, Yankee fan, Oriole fans, anything like that. And I know this might not be this is my hot take of the day right here. I'm sorry, but you don't want to see this team. You don't want no part of this team because they have a guy that can win the Cy Young in Skubal up there at the top of their rotation. They have a decent enough bullpen, and those bats, they're finding ways, and they're never out of a game. Like I just mentioned, there was a couple comeback wins. There's more than just those two in that stretch run. They come back on the best teams. That's the thing. You're talking about a team in the Royals who are up near the top in the AL Central. You're talking about a team in the Padres who are battling in the NL West. You're talking about two good teams right there that they battled back on. You gotta love it. This is postseason baseball, and this team right here, I love it. I knew nothing about it. Wasn't even paying attention. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wait, Tigers are like a game back. How did they get to this point? How are they up at this point right now? And they have more and more games to prove it here down the stretch. But if this team stays hot, I mean, they could be game wreckers when it comes to the AL playoffs. I can't wait for postseason baseball because this is already postseason baseball. This is a team getting hot heading into it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and it coincides with the Twins completely throwing up on themselves right now. But I feel like we talked about this like a couple of weeks ago. Like the Twins were the team that we felt like could be replaced as a playoff team. Obviously, most of us thought maybe the Red Sox or, whoever. None of us thought the Tigers because, like you said, the Tigers are just so far back. And also, if you're looking at the Tigers, if you're a White Sox fan and you're watching a Tigers team that, the Tigers aren't necessarily some big powerhouse or anything like that, they've managed to get their stuff together and have put together a really good product while the White Sox are sitting there about to lose 120 something games. But also speaks to the Central, a division that gets laughed at a lot. It looks like they're going to get 3 teams in the postseason. Mind you, they may have the best team in the American League in the Guardians. Guardians are another team, for as great of a season as they've had, nobody's talked about them because all the attention's been on New York with Aaron Judge. Or even the Astros. The Astros haven't gotten the attention that they've had past seasons this year because they were counted out early on, and they've just steadily have gotten to where they are. I feel like the Orioles had attention because of last season, but for me being a Red Sox fan and assuming my team isn't going to be in the postseason, I always look for those like young teams to root for them. So the Royals, Brewers, teams like that are teams that I'll be watching and being like, can they make noise? Because like you said, because the Tigers are on this run, there's a reason why past few seasons, like wild card teams have done well in the postseason. Because for the Tigers, it's been playoff mode for like a month now. So now when they actually get in, it's just a regular game to them. Teams at the top who get to coast last couple of weeks of September now have to try to ratchet it up once you get to October. With the Tigers team, if you face them in the first round, if they steal the first or second game on your home field, all the pressure's on you. The Tigers won't have any pressure at any point in that series. If they just win one on the road, that could take them very far. So I agree with you. Like if they get in, I mean they're tied with the Twins right now. They could be the most dangerous team in the American League, or at least the most unpredictable, which kind of makes them dangerous. And I'm here for it.
I think like I said, it's the fact that they have so many no-name guys that could just tear you up. That's the
Yeah,
biggest thing. They have no stars. I mean, you're talking who leads them in batting average? Colt Keith. Who is Colt Keith? I have no clue. He's a second baseman. Just found that out. He's batting 264. That's not even that great of an average. Yet he's
nope.
helping this team. Riley Green, 24 home runs, 71 RBIs for Riley Green. That leads the team. That tells you how much shuffling's going on. How much of this is, they keep moving pieces around trying to find what's going to work in there. And somehow, some way, like you said, I didn't even know they tied it in the wild card race. They're tied with the Twins for the third spot right now. It's unreal.
Yeah,
It is unreal what the Detroit Tigers are doing right now. And you got to love it. You got to love it. People of Detroit, the
yeah,
Lions are going to stink because the Packers will take the division, but you got the Tigers. So feel happy. Feel happy.
yeah. Look, Detroit, they went through all those down seasons, but now it's like they got the Lions, they have now the Tigers. If they could just get the Pistons to get their act together, like they might be onto something. But it's a weird time in sports where Detroit is now a city that has something to root for. So yeah, I mean, look, even on the National League side, even though they play in a major market, but the Mets have been on some crazy run recently, and they've gone from outside the postseason looking in to now in to now. I think they're the second wild card team. Like the Mets could be a team. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, look, I'm in Braves country here, and the last thing they want to hear about is the Mets doing well. But I don't know. Come October, the Mets, once again, as crazy as that sounds, could be a dangerous team as well. Because baseball postseason, I feel like unlike most wild card teams, have a legit shot, and usually you just look at the wild card team that had to do the most work to get in as the team to look at that can make a lot of noise in the postseason. So that'd be the Tigers and that'd be the Mets on both sides.
No, I agree. I agree. And those are some dangerous teams you just mentioned there. You got the Braves on the outside looking in. I wouldn't count them out yet. I really wouldn't. I mean, you look at that team, the pitching staff is still good. I mean, if they find ways to just muster across a couple of runs, I want to see Chris Sale in the playoffs. I don't know why. I just want to see him get some playoff starts because this guy is having a phenomenal season. And if we aren't talking about Chris Sale as a Cy Young at the end of the year, I will boycott. I will riot. I will start my own. I don't even know. I will go to Rob Manfred's house myself. He has no control over it, but I'm going to go yell at him. I don't know. Same with Pat Murphy. If Pat Murphy does not win NL Manager of the Year, I will. I don't know what's going to happen, but I will lose my mind. Like I just have to. I mean, I saw a stat the other day. So this is where they ranked the Brewers to start the season. So these are all of their odds where they were going to finish according to some of the major betting sites, everything like that. So the Las Vegas odds had them as 4. ESPN had them as 4. The Athletic, surprisingly, 2nd. So that was solid. The Athletic actually did pretty well there. Fox Sports, 5th. Fangraphs, 4th. 3rd in the Pacoda. The CBS Sports rankings had them as finishing 5th in the division, and the Ringer had them as 4th in the division. You're talking about the Brewers, who just were the first team to clinch their division out of all of baseball. Now, that helps that some teams in their division did not do as well, but that speaks volumes. Pat Murphy did what a lot of managers couldn't do. I don't think you could just throw any manager in this room with these guys and it would have worked. It would have worked.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing with Pat Murphy, and I've said it before, Craig Counsell was the brains of the operation, but Pat Murphy was everything else. He was everything else. He was the team guy. He was the chemistry guy. He was the motivator. He was all Craig Counsell didn't. I mean, he was never a talker. He was never that guy who you felt like was going to motivate a team. Pat Murphy is that guy. So you get this group of young guys, you throw them together. Who'd they need? They needed Pat Murphy in the room. If Pat Murphy does not win NL Manager of the Year, it is a crime against all of baseball. And I don't even know who would have won it. I mean, if you look at this list, you look at these teams, you look at where they were picked to finish the year and where they are now. The Phillies were picked to finish at the top of the division. They were picked to finish in the top of the rankings in the NL. Same with the Dodgers. The Padres, they seem to be always picked to finish up near the top, right? I mean, you look
Mhm.
at all the Mets would be the only one where I could say maybe the Mets, but the Mets, I mean, they're the Mets. They still have money. They're still spending money. This is the lowest payroll in baseball with a bunch. They had 17. The Brewers had 17 different guys start a game this year.
Mhm.
17. That is unreal. I mean, you're just throwing guys out there at that point. We had Dallas Keuchel at one point. We traded him for a
Yeah.
dollar. One whole dollar from the Mariners. Just those, you mean you lose Devin Williams early on in the year, your all-star closer. Christian Yelich goes down with a back injury. You could go starters. Wade Miley goes down. You lose Corbin Burns in the offseason. Woodruff's down for the year. I mean, you look at this team and you're like, how are they sitting 88 and 65? How are they sitting 3 games back of first place in the NL when you look at the rosters compared? How did they just take 2 of 3 from the Phillies? How?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the rosters, you're like, there's no way this team should be able to hang with them. Yet they do. It is just unreal what Pat Murphy has done with the Brewers. I know I'm a Brewer fan. I'm biased. I got to be right. It's just how I am. But at the same time, I don't know from an outsider's perspective how you could pick anybody else for NL Manager of the Year than Pat Murphy. It has got to be a unanimous decision here. Pat Murphy, NL Manager of the Year. I tried to wrap my head around other managers possibly
Yeah.
getting it. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's impossible.
I definitely see where you're coming from. My thought was if Atlanta found a way with everything that's gone on with their season and we're a playoff team, I could see people making arguments for Snitker.
Yep.
I feel like that's probably the only one because I agree with you. If you're going to sit there and talk about the Brewers versus the Phillies and look at their managerial jobs, you'd be like, I mean, look at the Phillies lineup. No, uh, you know, like who else would you really look at?
The only
The
team I can look at is
Diamondbacks. I feel like the Diamondbacks did it last year, but I feel
yeah.
like some people thought the Diamondbacks weren't necessarily going to be repeating this year. So maybe there, but I feel like it has to be Milwaukee. And then even if Atlanta doesn't make the playoffs, if they finish a game out or something like that, if you look at their season and let's say they win like 90 games, miss a wild card by a game, I still think Snicker will get a lot of consideration. But yeah, I feel like it should be Murphy running away with it with each passing day. Much less if they ended up somehow as the number one overall seed. Yeah, I feel like there you just lock it up automatically there. But
I
yeah,
think
what
you would
they've
just
done
win
is
like
just
5 games.
remarkable.
If you go 5-5 in your last 10, that would put them at what? 92? They'd be at 92 wins or 93 wins.
90, yeah.
93 wins on the season. If you were picked to finish 4th, 5th, everywhere but first in the division, and you win
Mm-hmm.
93 games on the season, I don't even know how even then you aren't talking about this guy. You're not saying, wow, what he did with, I mean, what other teams would consider scrubs. I mean, imagine if you sent a guy like Sal Frelick, right? He doesn't do
Mm-hmm.
that much, it doesn't seem like, right? You look at the batting, you look at everything like that. He's a very good outfielder, though. If you haven't seen Sal Frelick highlights in the outfield, that dude is unreal. But
Yeah.
you look at a guy like that, he wouldn't fit in on another team, but he's a starting right fielder for the Milwaukee Brewers. Blake Perkins wouldn't fit in on other teams. He might undoubtedly be the best center fielder in all of baseball. I would have that conversation with anybody because if you look at that guy, he looks like a prancing gazelle out in the middle of a meadow and he's just gliding back to the wall and then all of a sudden robs a home run. And it's like it
Mm-hmm.
was nothing. Like this dude is very underrated. And then you look at Jackson Churriel. I mean, I'm gonna tell you this now. Jackson Churriel, when it was about a couple weeks into the season, and this guy was
Hmm.
struggling. He was struggling mightily. And Pat Murphy, the Brewers organization, they could have just looked at him and they could have said, you know, Jackson, we paid you this big old contract. We want you to get at bats. We want you to get better. We're going to send you down to the minors. We're going to let you work on it down there. We'll bring you back up. Pat Murphy
Hmm.
didn't even like think about it. There wasn't even a thought in his head. He just kept him out there, kept pushing him out there, got him together with guys like Willie Adames and William Contreras, and just put them out there together. And they would just hit together and they'd hit together. And then all of a sudden, this guy just started hitting, and now he's batting 271. And now he's in conversations for Rookie of the Year. If he would have had the same start as what he is now, he probably would be Rookie
Yeah.
of the Year. And there'd probably be no doubt. I mean, you're talking about a rookie who's in the 2020 club right now. I mean, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Probably not the same category as Shohei Ohtani, but this guy isn't Shohei Ohtani. This is Jackson Churriel, who could be an all-star, could be a superstar at one point. But it's just those little things where Pat Murphy didn't waver. He didn't say, we need to get rid of this guy right now. He's not hitting good enough for us. I mean, if Jackson Churriel would have been going through that, look at what the Orioles did with Jackson Holiday, right? He
Hmm.
comes up, he's slumping, immediately down to the minors. We're done. We don't have time for this. We're gonna get rid of you, right? Now with the
Yep.
Brewers, now with Pat Murphy, now with this organization, they were a winning ball club. They were in the same setting as what the Orioles were. They just kept them there. I think that speaks volumes. That speaks to a locker room is when you don't give up on those guys. You don't give in to the pressure of the media or anything like that to get rid of a guy or send a guy down. You just stick to your guns. You keep him out there because you know this guy has got the potential to be good. He really does. Now, if it blows up in your face, it blows up in your face. But this is a guy, Murphy, who doesn't care. I mean, he doesn't care. He gets tossed out of games. He does whatever he's got to do for his team. I love this
Hmm.
guy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was kind of sad to see Craig Counsell go. I got to tell you now, I'm glad he did. I really am. This Brewers team to me, I'm gonna tell you this now. I felt this way in 2018. I thought the Brewers had a shot. I really did. There is something different. There is something different about this Brewers team. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. If it's the speed, if it's the defense, if it's just the fact that it's just all around baseball. I don't know what it is. But I look at this team and it just gives me this vibe where it's like we could be playing baseball for a little while. We could be playing in the fall classic for a little while. It's just one of those seasons where it just you don't know why, but this team is just like I don't know. I don't know what it is about the Brewers, but right now I just feel it with them. I'm feeling this vibe where it's like this team could go a long ways, and it's a lot to do with the guy who's calling the shots in Pat Murphy. That's why I believe this Pat Murphy has to be. He has to be manager of the year. I get the Brian Snicker. I've thought about him too. I really have.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that there aren't going to be other guys in the conversation, but at the end of the day, when you put what these teams have done together, Pat Murphy has got to be your number one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think with Jackson Churio, what reminds me his situation, same thing Jaron Duran went through with Boston, where he came up, struggled. He struggled at the one thing that Red Sox fans assumed he was going to be good at, which was in the field, because everybody just remembers the play. I think it was Toronto pop up to center field. Duran completely loses it, has no idea where the ball is, and lands like 20 feet behind him up against the wall. I think it was like Tapia, who was hitting at the time, got an inside the park home run. And everybody just remembered Jaron Duran standing there with his arms up like he didn't know where the ball was. And now you fast forward to today, because Alex Cora had so much faith in him. He's a guy that's, he's hitting like 285. He's got 21 home runs. He's got like 75 RBIs. He's got what, uh, over 10 triples. He's got over 30 stolen bases. He's all this stuff. And there was a stat the other day. I can't remember it, but it was like, I think he's the youngest to ever have like a 10 triple, 30 steal, uh, I think 50 double season, I believe, as well.
Huh.
And it's like, yeah, that's a guy that if the organization had given up on him, he could have been mired in the minor leagues, or I mean, they could have very easily have traded him, and he could have flourished somewhere else. But by them sticking around with him, he's now a cornerstone prospect on that team. So going into next season, when hopefully they get Trevor Story a healthy season, because it is encouraging seeing Trevor Story come back and hitting. He's hit a couple of home runs since he's been back already. He's got a few doubles, and like that's a guy. If you put him at short, he can hit. Fine, they're better off. I mean, they still need to fix the pitching, but like there's reasons for optimism in Boston because of guys like Jaron Duran and a few others that you could say, might have struggled before, but they stuck with them and they had pretty good seasons. So when I see Churio, and he was a play the other night on I think the game where they clinched the division, he hit a ball down the first base line, and that dude hustled out of the box from second one and dove into third. He probably could have stood up at third with a triple. And I watched that play, and I was like, Jaron Duran would have done that. And that right there is something that in the playoffs, those guys who hustle like that can turn the tide of any playoff series. Because those plays, maybe it should have been a double, but he stretches it to a triple. Those emotional plays get other guys up. It's demoralizing to the other team. I mean, like I said, in that instance, they ended up winning that one. That's what clinched the division for them. But yeah, I am definitely ready for postseason baseball and see like what young player kind of makes a name for themselves. I feel like for a lot of people, it could be Bobby Witt because of Kansas City. You'd have to say Kansas City is probably a lock to get in now, but that's going to be fun. And I thought that's just kind of where this season is. You could see Kansas City, Detroit, Milwaukee, Arizona. Some of these smaller teams will have legit shots at the World Series. I mean, I would probably bet on probably one of them doing it over one of the major market teams like Yankees or Mets. I mean, obviously the Dodgers will be favored out in the National League, but I don't know. I'm ready to see who's going to be the Diamondbacks of this year or the Rangers of this year.
I think this year more than any, it's wide open. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's wide open for any team to go and take it. I think we will
Yep.
see some World Series that at the beginning of the year you would not have dreamed of it, but it's going to happen. And that's why when I say, I mentioned before there my Brewers, I was like, it feels like this team has a legitimate shot. It does. It honestly, I sit here and I just get this feeling. It's like they could do it. Like this is the year I think they could do it. I really do.
Yeah. I
All
think
right,
before
so
the season I had Orioles Braves before the season, which
Orioles, Braves. What
looks
about
like the Orioles will be in, but I mean Braves are 2 out. They're 2 behind the Mets and the Diamondbacks. And they, as crazy as it is, they could still sneak in.
I'm gonna have to go all the way back and try and listen to what I picked. I know we picked our World Series champs, but I thought we said we would do one at the start of the year. We'd do one mid-season because I was kind of skeptical, and then we'd do one at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to do one when Aaron's back.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do one. We're gonna have to do another one.
Yeah, before the playoffs start, we'll just pick one that obviously will be pared down to the actual playoff teams. But yeah, if you want to change your pick at that point, we can definitely do that.
I like that. Let's do that. I think there's only one way to end this show. I think there's only one way to end it every week, and that is with a debate question. Something far out. So I looked up 70 engaging, debatable sports topics for you to choose from, and they're all stupid, every single one. But I got one that made me thinking. It made me think. It did. So, what are your thoughts? Okay, so not recently, but in the years past, we introduced this new thing called instant replay. And now we have goal line technology. We have all this kind of stuff. What
Mm-hmm.
are your thoughts on the whole concept of it? Is there a part of you that honestly, at the end of the day, wishes it was just a referee or a umpire or whatever it is? Is there a part of you that still wishes that there was that human factor in it where, we look at baseball, it's like we can challenge this now. And basketball in the NBA, you can challenge things in the NBA now. And all those. Is there a part of you that somewhat wishes that we could go back to the point where what was called, you move on with life, you get angry, right? Because that's what you do. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
love high school basketball. There's no instant replay, none of that. You just
Yeah.
go through it. I love that. I love the human factor, the anger, everything that comes with it. What are your thoughts? There's a pro to instant replay, and there's also like there's a con. There's cons to it. There is cons to
Yeah.
instant replay.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on instant replay? All those different. I mean, there's all these different things they use now. I mean, goal line cameras, everything in between. Sometimes they still can't get a call right, and they got all this technology. So, what are your thoughts on all that as a whole? Do you think it's benefiting the game a lot, or do you think you kind of wish deep down you could go back and just have no instant replay and everything like that?
I'm actually okay with instant replay. I feel like we're in a day and age where technology can do so much great. Like, why not use it? Look, I was one of those who thought we weren't using it enough. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why you would never think to put a camera in the pylon down the goal line. That way, you got an actual angle to see whether or not a guy got in or not. I mean, obviously, there are tough plays where you have like all 22 guys like jumbled up pushing and you can't tell where the ball is, but that goal line technology, I'm here for it. Even like the skyline camera, it was like, why would that have not have been a thing this whole time? I don't know, maybe because I'm like a bit of a tech nerd. The fact that instant replay brings us all these different camera angles and all this kind of stuff, I like it. Like you said, there's cons to it. Obviously, if there's a play that you at home see a quick replay and you go, clearly he's in, he's out, touchdown, whatever, but it takes them whatever for some reason 20 minutes. Yeah, that's frustrating. But I just can't see where having more eyes on the field to get these calls correct is a bad thing. So I like it. I think expand it as much as you can, like I said, because you get the cool technology or the camera angles and all that. And like I said, I'm like a nerd for that. Like even when the NHL had the technology with like the glowing puck on TV, at first I was like, what am I watching? And it was like the more I watched it, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So as long as they do the replays in a timely manner, I'm all for it. I know leagues are always looking to expand upon it and all that. So, I mean, like as a fan, there's always going to be stuff for you to be mad at anyway. You get mad at your manager, your coach. You get mad at the referees who are doing the replay. Like it's still there. So that experience is still there for me. Because I mean, I get where you're coming from. Back when there was no replay, like watching sports was just like 2 hours of you just getting in fits of rage at 15-second intervals. And yeah, part of you kind of misses that, but it's just like the evolution of whether it's society or whatever. I feel like use all the necessary tools to make it better. Because to ask a human to watch these guys that run like 30 miles an hour, some of them at top speed, and try to get your well, I mean, I feel like Tyreek Hill at maybe 27, but you have guys running that kind of speed and the hard hitting and all this, and for you to try to make sure you're in the correct position to see everything, I feel like that's a lot to ask. The games were slower back in the day. It was a little bit easier, still hard, but yeah, I'm I'm pro instant replay for sure. I'm pro technology in any way.
I think I'm gonna have to go against you just because it's gonna make a hot
Okay.
topic. Gotta make a hot topic here. I'm gonna okay. There's points where I love instant replay. There's points, right? But sometimes, like instant replay fails me.
Hmm.
2015 national championship, Duke, Wisconsin, it lives in my head rent free every single day. Ball clearly goes off Maslow's finger. Everybody in the United States of America or all over the world who is watching that game watches his finger go backwards, and you can see the ball go off his hand clearly. Whether you were sitting at home, you were sitting at the bar, wherever you were sitting, you saw that
Hmm.
ball go off his finger. Goes to instant replay. The refs look at it. It takes a good 5 minutes. They come back. Duke basketball. Don't understand that call. Never will. Never will to this day understand that call. So instant replay hurt me in that way.
Yeah.
But it's kind of I I agree that you want to get the right calls. You want to make the right calls every time. You want to make the right calls. Pylon, whatever it is. Sometimes I love the stupid calls though. I mean,
Yeah.
what would we talk about if every game was perfect? Let's just imagine if every game was perfect. What would we talk about, right? We wouldn't be talking about Armando Gallardo, right? Almost throwing a perfect game, but a botched call at first base. If we had instant replay, clearly it would have been a perfect game. Yet,
Hmm.
here we are. We can talk about that. What my favorite part about sports is that when you look back over before instant replay, you get to see all these missed calls, terrible calls, everything like that. I love that. My thing is, I like instant replay for the fact of was he in, right? If a foot in, I like that. I like that portion of instant replay. Or, did he catch it on the sideline? Was he across the first down line? I love instant replay for those instances. But when I look at, let's just say, the NBA, right? I don't need you to go to the monitor and see if there was a foul. I think that is dumb. I hate that rule. I hate that rule. Yes, referees, like you said, it is hard to make every call, but that's what makes sports great.
Yeah.
That is what has always made sports great is that there are missed calls. I mean, imagine if a referee could actually see all this crap happen in live time, right? With holding, how many holding calls do you think there would be in an NFL game if they called every holding? 100.
Yeah.
There'd be hundreds of holding calls. Every single play, there's holding. They pick and choose times to call it when it's blatant, or they just want to make something happen. I don't know. They just get tired and they're like, I got to blow my whistle. I haven't blown it in a while. There we go. Holding on the offense, right? It's just I feel like with as much as they try to change, right? With instant replay, we can review fouls, we can review. I don't like that portion of it. I don't like the portion of being able to review fouls or, if this happened or if it didn't happen. I don't like those. I think when they first introduced instant replay to the fact of we're going to like if his foot was in bounds or if he scored a touchdown or not. Those things I like. I like instant replay for those. I don't like the foul calls. I don't like the if it was. They're probably going to get to a point. Do they have pass interference calls yet? Do they allow NFL teams to challenge pass interference calls?
I thought that's something that's been discussed
Right, but
before.
I don't want it to get to that point where like
Yeah.
we can go to the monitor and say, was it pass interference? Well, I'm guessing if we're going to challenge it, it's probably pass interference, right? I don't want to get to that point because that's what I think makes the game perfect is that it's imperfect. We talked about it all the time with baseball, but you can talk about it with all sports out there. Football, basketball, doesn't matter. Now I got my whole different controversy with the NBA that we're not going to get into tonight because that would take
Hmm.
hours on end for me to discuss my entire take on the
Yeah.
NBA. But but I just don't like, LeBron gets fouled, right? I'm going to pick on LeBron because I don't like LeBron. LeBron gets fouled. He's crying about it. He goes to the bench. He's like, hey, coach, I want to challenge this because there was a foul there and they didn't call it. So now we go to the monitor, right? And we got to go underneath the monitor. And what are the odds that LeBron's not going to get the call? Pretty slim,
Right.
right? He's going to get the call. I
Yeah.
don't like those. So I guess where my controversy is going to come with instant replay. The whole concept of it, I like to make calls that need to be made, but foul calls, everything like that, get that out of here. I don't like that portion of instant replay. Let the guys play. Let the referees do their job, right? End of the day, let them do their job because that's what makes the game great is the missed calls and everything like that in between. I get where, like you said, with inbounds, everything like that, plays at the plate, plays at first base.
Mhm.
I want those to be right. But, you know, after that, some of these other calls that they're getting in other sports, I don't like it. I don't like those challenges of a flag or stuff like that. If it gets to that point, I think they're going to be crossing a line that I don't think they want to cross. Because then at the end of the day, you might as well just throw the referees away and just have robotic umpires, robotic referees who you have nobody out on the field. You're just watching it from cameras all over the place and we're making calls. It takes away from the game. I really do think it does. It takes away from the game and you might as well not pay these guys to do their job.
Yeah, I look, that's definitely a great point because that's kind of been me trying to process the robot umpires. It's like you have a robot ump, like what we still have an umpire there, and if he's still there, like what's he doing there? Because the robot's gonna call balls and strikes. Is the I guess the human ump just gonna call out or safe at the plate? So it's like if you're an ump, it's like half your job's taken away by a robot. Like, why are you gonna be dedicated to it? So when you get technology replacing the actual human person in that position, I feel like that's where it might be going a little bit too far. But having it as like a checks and balance system, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's the worst thing. But I see where you're coming from because like your nightmare would be every aspect falling under instant replay,
I
whether
think we'll
it's
get to that point at because somebody's going to complain, right? The right guy.
yeah,
They always would say it was the Tom Brady rule. He would do this, or it was the Aaron Rodgers rule. So then they make this rule about hitting the quarterback at a certain time. It's like the right guy will say something, and then it's like, oh, yeah, we better make that a rule because otherwise we're going to get this guy upset. So then we make this rule. I just feel like we're getting to that point, and I just don't want to get to that point
yeah,
where it's a problem because you talk about pace of games, right? We're talking about length of games. We want to shorten games, right? What's instant replay going to do if you're challenging everything? I like, the minor league rules with tapping on the helmet. You tap the helmet twice, you get the replay. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you lose a challenge on a ball and a
hmm
strike. I like that. I like that. It's a simple innovation because, like you said, it's a human error. Sometimes umpires they're bad, right? Some umpires are terrible. Some umpires are
hmm
bad. You want to get the calls right. I get those. I just don't want to, like you said, get to the point where we're challenging everything. Everything can be challenged, just like the NBA now. It seems like everything can be challenged, shooting fouls, everything like that. It's like, why do you need to have that challenge? Just let them play. Let these guys play. Let the refs do their job. Otherwise, I mean, don't pay these guys. And then you have, I mean, I don't even know the exact number, but let's talk about a lot of unemployed guys or women, right? Guys and women in the United
yeah,
States of America because you just switched over to robotic umps to, I don't know, save a buck or whatever it is, or make money. You think it's going to make money? I don't know. And like you said, I mean, what's the home plate umpire's job going to be? If it's a 1-0 game and there was only one guy who came home, he just got paid X amount of dollars to stand behind the plate, do absolutely nothing, and watch one guy score. That's it. That's all he did
yeah.
all game long. Like, what's his job? What's the point of him? So I mean, there it's I get instant replay. I get it all. I like it. I just
hmm
think it has to be kind of I don't know what the right word is. I'm trying to think of like boxed in. It's got to be boxed into on a
yeah,
certain aspects of the game. And I think the biggest aspects of the game that you need instant replay are for, like I said, touchdowns or anything like that. You want to get those calls right for sure. But when you're talking about if he roughed the passer, targeting calls, I want those to be reviewed because if you get called for targeting and you don't review
you
it,
get ejected.
well,
Yeah,
you get ejected. So I want those to be reviewed because I mean, referees sometimes the targeting. That should have been my controversial thing. That'll be for next week. Don't forget that one.
yeah,
Targeting calls because targeting calls are a little out of control all over the place. So I want
yeah.
to talk about that next week because we're getting a little long here. But I mean, I'm all for instant replay. Nobody get me wrong out there. I'm all for instant replay. I just think it has to be controlled and in certain aspects of the game, and don't get too buck wild on it because it's going to get dangerous and you're going to irritate a lot of fans if you get too crazy out there. Because there's a lot of fans who are turning away from the NBA now because they think it's one of those leagues where it just isn't the right game anymore. It's not the right game of basketball, and that's why a lot of people are turning back towards college and not towards the pros. And it's the same in football. Not from they're going away from the NFL and they're back to college. I think that already was kind of a thing with. I keep going dark on the screen there. I don't know what's going on. I think there already was a bigger following for college football. That's just my personal opinion. I think there already is
Mm-hmm.
a bigger fanship for college football than there is in the NFL. But I mean, you're going to lose people in professional sports if they get too crazy with some of the changes that they're making.
Yeah, and look, I kind of think there's a conversation in there that we could have for a future show,
Son of a
pro
gun, we're
versus
thinking of
college
everything.
and all that. Yeah, I feel like we can definitely do that. And look, that's kind of the
I'll write
point
it
of
down.
this show. Yeah, like that's literally the point of the show is that we're just gonna come on here every week and we're just gonna talk, and that's basically what we did here. You know, we didn't necessarily go into like game breakdown stuff like that. It's just like these are the conversations that you would have at like a Buffalo Wild Wings or some place like that. Games are on and something happens and you like nudge the person next to you like, can you believe that this is whatever? Like, that's literally what we just did for like an hour and a half. So, um, but yeah. So look, like I said, if you tuned in hoping to see Bases of the podcast, it's same kind of energy, just a different name, and just I'll be still family friendly, but I feel like a
Always.
lot of the it's always family friendly, but all the parameters are like taken away, and it's just a wide open discussion. And look, I had fun for the first episode under the new name. I mean, hopefully you all who tuned in enjoyed it as well. And even if some of you watch it after the fact, we definitely appreciate you as well. Yeah, I mean, like before we get out of here, like anything you want to add or anything like that?
Well, no, not much to add. I mean, it was a great show. Like you said
Yeah,
it all. You said it all. Like, it was a great show, just a talk show, basically all that it is. If you're in the comment section or you're watching this, just comment in. Like we want you guys, we want your voices to be heard. We want to talk about what you're thinking. We don't want to talk about what we're thinking. You don't want to know what I'm
yeah,
thinking half the time. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to talk about it here on the show. So definitely get into the comment section because we love to hear from you guys. We love to hear everything that's going on. Patriots currently getting slacked around by the Jets right now. Not great news for Kyle.
yeah.
I thought Jacoby Brissett was going to get hurt there, and I thought we were going to see Drake May. There was a chance the Patriots were going to come back. They haven't given him a shot yet.
Yeah, but I think it's closer to that time where we actually will see Drake May. I mean, he's every time they show him warming up, I'm like, don't do
He's
this to
warming
me.
up. He's ready to
I
rock.
was like, don't tease me like that. I do think once he gets in, I feel like he's gonna bring some excitement. And not to say Jacoby Brissett like has killed anything, because I think the players love Jacoby Brissett. Like he's tough. That guy takes hits every week that you're looking at like there's no way he's gonna get up. He'll get up, he'll wince, he might limp to the side, and then he's right back out there. So players love playing with him. But I think for Drake May, the youth, the kind of like we talked about a little earlier, like the not knowing what you should know aspect to him, I think the players will definitely resonate with that. But we'll see. But I mean, like I said, it was a great show. You know, we'll definitely be back next week with some more topics. And I definitely agree with you. Like if you tune in next week or whenever, and there's something that you guys want us to talk about, you put it in the comment section. We'll bring it up. Okay, now they got Drake May putting on the helmet. It's actually going to happen.
It's
Okay,
happening
it
now.
is not a complete loss now. I'm going to get to see Drake May in a regular season game. Okay, I'm here for it. But yeah. So like Trajan said, if there's a topic that you guys want to bring up, maybe it's something that you've had on your mind, or you have an opinion on something, and you just want to throw it out there to see how we react to it. We are here for that. That's what this show's about. So make sure you do come back next Thursday, 9:15 for sports banter across the country. So for myself, Trajan with Wisconsin Sports on the Go, make sure you go check them out. And Aaron, who couldn't be on this week, hopefully next week, as Drake May's walking onto the field. We're going to go ahead and let you enjoy the rest of your night. We're out of here. See you all next. Oh, make sure you like, subscribe, follow Integrity Sports Network. Greatly appreciate it. But yeah, yes, must do that. So enjoy the rest of your night. We will see you next week. All right.